Hello, the celestial bodies that govern the internet have aligned to bring us live to you from reInvent here in the Venetian. I'm A.M. Grabelny, an evangelist here at AWS. I'm joined by a couple friends, a couple new friends. But I think, again, maybe I said this to a group earlier, it didn't work out, they left. But maybe best friends at the end of this?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You answer that too quick. You don't know me. You don't know. So please introduce yourself, starting down here.
Hi, my name is Damien Wiley. I represent the Amazon product team.
Hi, my name is Mehul Shah, and I'm the engineering manager for AWS Glue.
Hi, my name is Prajakta Damle, and I'm the product manager for AWS Lake Formation as well as AWS Glue.
All right, so I heard a couple service names that are new. Werner's keynote this morning, the very beginning of it was very heavily weighted into data, actually, right? Mm-hmm. We talked about the internals of S3 with Maylin, talked about Aurora and Dynamo. These are all data solutions. Again, I said this earlier, I don't think that was accidental, right? Data's a very important aspect of a business, and that's what we're here to talk about in this segment as well, is lake formation and the new managed Kafka service as well.
That's right.
So we're going to go with lake formation first. Mm-hmm. What is lake formation?
So maybe let's talk about data and data lakes first.
Perfect.
Data grows about 10x every 5 years. And with the growth of machine-generated data and IoT data,
right,
we're really seeing an exponential growth in the amount of unstructured and semi-structured data that customers are storing and analyzing. And a data lake essentially allows you the flexibility to store any kind of data, structured, semi-structured, or unstructured, at massive scale.
Right.
And it supports a wide variety of analytics and machine learning tools.
That's the big data I heard so much about a couple of years ago, right?
That is right.
That was a huge craze. But as blossomed into more of this data lake scenarios, is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, we have many customers building data lakes on AWS today. We provide the widest range of services customers store data on S3, and then they query and analyze their data with a wide range of analytics services like Athena, EMR, Redshift. Customers use Glue to build this data lake. They use Glue to bring data into their data lake and catalog it.
Right.
But it still takes time. And
it does.
It is quite manual today.
And there's a huge amount of data, right?
There is a huge amount of data.
You just told us, right?
Yes.
The growth of data is insane.
That is true.
Yeah.
So let me quickly show you.
Yeah. Show us what you've got here.
So typically, when you're setting up a data lake, you first need to find your data.
Okay.
And then you need to set up your S3 buckets. You need to set up your raw bucket. You need to set up a bucket to keep your intermediate staging data, and then you need to put your data in a curated form that's ready for analytics.
All right.
After you do that, you need to secure access to this data.
Sure, yeah, security is paramount.
Absolutely. And then you need to map tables or table definitions that point to this data so that this data is queryable.
Okay.
But you're not done yet.
Oh, there's still more.
There is still more. You need to configure your ETL jobs to load data on a continuous basis, to cleanse this data, enrich it.
Right.
So
ETL is always fun to write too, right? Like writing
as you can
code.
see,
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the code is powerful. It is flexible.
Yeah.
And as you said, it's fun to write, especially.
Well, I was being a little sarcastic. I've had to write a lot of ETL jobs in my time, and it's not the most exciting code to write in some instances, right? So yeah.
Yep.
Go on. I'm sorry for interrupting.
And then you also need to log down or scope down access to the tables themselves.
Okay, great.
And all of this is before you can write your first query.
Yeah, you're not even to the point where you're getting value out of your data yet.
That's right. So you have to do this over and over again. It tends to be very manual, error-prone, and time-consuming.
Yeah.
And that's why we've built AWS Lake Formation.
Okay.
It helps you build a secure data lake in days.
Sure.
We have data ingest blueprints that help you bring your data into the data lake, cleanse it, and catalog it automatically. We have a central security model that allows you to set up your security permissions, not just your table permissions, but also your data permissions in one place and audit that access.
Right.
And then we have a central data catalog that allows you to search and find the right data sets and start analyzing this data using a variety of services like Athena, EMR, and Redshift Spectrum.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and it sounds like, so we looked at the old model, this is the new model with lake formation. It sounds like the old model took, you said days for lake formation. It was like months and months of work.
It can take months for some of our customers, that's true.
Yeah.
You'll have engagements with some companies where they'll get contractors and experts to come in. They'll draw all kinds of designs on the board, take surveys, and before you know it, half a year or a year has gone by. People have put millions of dollars into this stuff and nothing's really gotten started.
Right.
So what we want to be able to do is go in there and give them a very simple value proposition. Go in, click a few buttons, get started, and you're basically up and running.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. What about, so you and I were talking about this earlier, ingestion points, right? Where am I ingesting the data from?
So we're going to start by supporting various different database engines, like MySQL, Oracle, SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server, PostgreSQL.
All right.
And we'll support databases that are running on EC2 machines on AWS, RDS, Amazon RDS databases, as well as databases on-premise.
Okay.
We'll also support a set of AWS log formats that our customers often query, like CloudTrail.
Sure.
And we'll support data that is ingested through Kinesis Firehose to begin with. I mean, this is just a set of things that we'll start with, and we'll obviously expand to a wide range of sources that we'll support.
Sure, absolutely. So here we go. We've got the ingestion point, right? And then we've got pieces in between, security, there's some ML pieces that you can run to. We'll get to that in just a minute. The ultimate goal for the data to after it's ingested is to arrive in S3, is that right?
Yes.
And then once it's in S3, you mentioned Athena, right?
Yes.
What can I do with Athena with data that's sitting in S3 for anyone who's never used Athena before?
So you can run SQL directly against S3 and query data in place or at rest using Athena. And Athena is serverless, so you can just log on to the Athena console and start writing a query.
Sure.
And get results
You said
without
serverless.
any data movement.
You won me. You won me over with serverless immediately. What about integration with QuickSight too in Athena? I've played with that a little bit too. That's another powerful story, right?
Yes, so Athena has a JDBC driver that makes it extremely easy and seamless to use QuickSight on top of Athena. And since Lake Formation will integrate with Athena, once you secure your data using permissions in Lake Formation, you can access that through QuickSight using the JDBC connection.
Okay.
Or you can enforce that in QuickSight.
All right, so let's pivot back to security and ML.
Actually, do you want to take that?
Pass it down.
Sure. So one of the biggest hurdles in building a data lake today is cleaning the data. Data is typically a mess. Even when you write your own scripts, these things are very prescriptive. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And oftentimes, you really need a human to kind of take a look at the data to clean things up. Imagine, for example, you're walking through log files that record, what videos people are watching.
Right.
And the titles might change. It might say, for example, Star Wars Episode 6 in one record. Or Star Wars Return of the Jedi in another record.
Okay.
And they
you're
really,
definitely not pandering right now to me, are you?
No.
Are you sure? It feels like you're pandering.
I was going to wear my Darth Vader uniform.
All right.
Right, but
I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
I'm a big Star Wars fan. Yeah.
And so these kinds of things are very fuzzy, and you can't really programmatically clean them.
Okay.
And so what we're doing is we're introducing ML transforms. You can train them with your data, give them a few examples, and then voila, you get a transform that can actually say, well, these records are really the same thing. And this is really useful when you're doing analytics to kind of collapse things together that ought to be the same thing. If you're trying to get together a clean data set to do reporting, for example, it's very useful as well.
Okay.
There's sort of innumerable cases, and we've actually used this internally in Amazon retail for a lot of use cases at large scale, and works pretty well. So now it's going to be available for all of you, all the customers out there for AWS.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. We did have a question from chat from David 777. That's his username. can we create automatically new data sources in QuickSight, lock down access to those with lake formation?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the way lake formation is going to work is you're going to have one single place where you define all the data sets that you have, your databases, your tables, the columns in those tables, and so on. And you very simply specify policies. Grant Prajakta access to this table and these columns. Grant Mehul access to only 3 tables. And then all of the accesses that are happening through the various analytics services, including QuickSight, are going to go entirely through lake formation, right? So you'll be able to say, just drag and drop and draw a chart and create tables and delete them based on the permissions that are specified in lake formation.
I think a key distinction though to make is that even though lake formation will be providing that central place to define your security policies, it is not in the data path. So the querying actually will happen just as it does today through various different services. So there's no additional latency that you will see or customers will see just because they're using lake formation to manage their security.
It's a good point to highlight. Absolutely. Lake formation sounds very interesting. We've got to pivot now and talk to, I'm sorry, we've
Damien
kind of been
Wiley.
ignoring you a little bit down there,
No
Damien.
problem. Equally important.
It's okay. We'll make it up to you now. We've got some time now to talk. We're going to get a little bit existential, a little bit postmodernist, and talk about Kafka.
All right.
It's a little English literature joke for you, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, this is bad. Sorry. Sorry.
The audience might get it though.
I'll leave. It's okay. You guys got this. You don't need me. Amazon Managed Streaming for Kafka was launched today.
Yep.
Why Kafka, right? Why? We've already had Kinesis.
Why Kafka? Well, we have a lot of customers that are running Kafka applications within AWS, and they came to us and said, hey, running Kafka on their own was heavyweight. Zookeeper and the cluster management
Zookeeper, you triggered me. You just triggered me with that.
Was a bit heavyweight for them, and so they love the power that Kafka provides, but they want to spend more time building their applications, less on the infrastructure management. And for us, we want to provide our customers with more choice for the managed offerings that we provide them within AWS. And ultimately our goal is to make Kafka more available to those customers that don't have the infrastructure management expertise that we've built over time.
Right.
With Kinesis is a great example. And so we're taking that expertise, applying it to Kafka, making it more available to customers, but at the same time, we are going to be taking the feedback from our customers from our service and then driving it back into open source Kafka. That is something we're committed to doing, committed to improving Kafka for everyone, even if it is not necessarily ran inside of our service, that's okay. We're going to contribute back to Kafka based on the feedback that we get and how Kafka operates within our service.
That sounds great. Also, so it sounds to me, just to kind of extrapolate from that Kinesis v Kafka, it's not really a Kinesis v Kafka argument at all, is it? It's not an either or.
No, it's not, and in fact, we have many customers that are running both at the same time. I like to think of it as, if you're trying to tighten a bolt, you got to have the right tool for that job. You have a metric wrench, or you have a standard wrench. Which one are you going to use? Now you have two tools, and you can apply them to the right job. That's what it's all about. We're happy to support Kafka. We want to support both customers that use Kafka, and then maybe those that use Kinesis, or even those that use both at the same time.
Sure, yeah. And just for clarification for those watching who've maybe never experienced working with Kafka before, it's usually referred to as a distributed log, right?
That's
a distributed log system. How is that different than, for example, a pub sub system that you may have worked with, right?
Yeah, but by the way, the distributed log is at the heart of Kinesis as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So the Kinesis Data Streams product has a distributed log, which it keeps data stored for a specific period of time, and those records are ordered, which enables multiple applications to read from it independently. Now that's different from the traditional queuing model, where data comes into a queue, it's not necessarily ordered, but the job of the queue is to present data to applications, and those applications can read that data and distribute work across those applications. So if you read data from a queue, typically it disappears. And so that's great for those workloads that require, they just want to process data and it doesn't have to be processed by the same machines. So in a nutshell, a distributed log provides a customer with the capability to set applications up and have access to all the data within a stream at all times that it is retained for, whereas a queue is set up so where a customer just wants to drive data through and have it processed as quickly as possible in parallel by multiple applications.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're going to talk about integrations to other AWS services as well. And this ties into a question we just got from chat. Can managed Kafka deliver to things like S3 or send records to Firehose? What kind of integrations can we expect with existing AWS services?
Well, it's currently in preview, so there's a couple of core integrations that are there, but they're not the integrations that you would expect to see for delivery of data.
Okay.
In the fullness of time, you can expect to see those types of integrations built into the Amazon MSK service. So those integrations could include Firehose and other analytics applications that would be reading from Kafka and driving the data into S3, for example.
Okay, and we kind of highlighted this a little bit in your description of why we built a Kafka service in general, but what would this be like if I was hosting my own Kafka service? Like, what kind of pains have you seen customers that have been running their own Kafka solution themselves, and what were those motivations?
Well, broker management is problematic. As you scale your cluster over time, you have to manage those brokers and keep them up and running. So that is a tricky aspect. Same with Zookeeper. If Zookeeper nodes fail, orchestrating keeping that Zookeeper cluster up is tricky. But for specifically, like, I'll give you a great example. When a cluster fails, a broker fails, you have to introduce a new broker. Ideally, that broker has the same ID as the previous one.
Right.
But at the same time, you also need to configure that broker for Kafka, migrate those partitions that were there back onto that broker, and then there's a read event that happens within the cluster. So orchestrating all of that can be tricky.
Sure.
And for customers, that means they have to set up alarms on those brokers. They have to set up that automation, all of those workflows that we have baked into our service. That is, it detracts from their ability to develop applications that add value to their end customers.
Right. They're not focused on their actual application at that point. They're focused on making the application work. Right?
Yes.
For Kafka-based
Exactly.
issues. So we had a question come in from chat from Robert Tables. Does Kafka have streams and events like Kinesis?
Does Kafka? Yes, it does.
Right.
And Kafka itself allows you to stream data in just like you would experience within Kinesis.
Okay.
It allows you to stream events as well. Both are supported.
Okay, great. It sounds like a really exciting service. We've got some more questions coming in from chat, which I always like to get on air if we can. These are actually for the data lake formation or lake formation folks over here. Can lake formation handle access for S3 objects and buckets as well, or only glue data catalog?
It actually handles access to all the data, not just the metadata in the catalog. So when you grant access to a table or revoke access to a table, it grants access to the underlying objects that are in S3 as well, or revokes access to those objects. Okay. It can also grant access and revoke access to individual rows as well as columns in those tables.
Okay.
And we have a lot of machinery underneath the covers to be able to pull those things out.
That sounds super cool. So just to wrap up, where do I go to learn more about lake formation? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
We have a lot of resources, videos, and other tutorials, etc., on our web pages. So do take a look, and we are going to be starting a preview very soon, so do sign up on our preview page.
And for managed Kafka?
We have a preview that's live. It's open publicly. You can go ahead and create clusters through the console or through the CLI. The web page, search for MSK within the Amazon Web Services landing pages.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Stay tuned. We'll be back with more for you in just a minute.